Today is Monday, July 14, 2014. It's the 195th day of the year. There are 170 days remaining until the end of 2014. Sunrise today is at 5:20 a.m. The sun sets at 8:32 p.m. Length of daylight hours today, 15 hours, 12 minutes, 38 seconds. 1 minute, 30 seconds shorter than yesterday. Tomorrow will be 1 minute, 33 seconds shorter than today. The waning gibbous moon rises today with 95% illumination at 9:51 p.m. and sets at 9:22 a.m. Tuesday. The moon passes today above downtown Rutland City at 233,120 miles distant from the center of planet Earth within the 11th zodiacal designation, Aquarius, the water bearer. On this day in 1798, the Fifth Congress of the United States creates and passes 4 pieces of paranoid legislation during the administration of the second president, John Adams, the Alien and Sedition Acts collectively, in reaction to how crazy our pals, the French, are getting after their revolution, that whole reign of terror business. You know, today's the anniversary in 1789 of the swarming of the Bastille. Today's Bastille Day, a whole other story. Robespierre and his Committee of Public Safety, which isn't safe for anybody, they guillotined the king, Louis XVI, who would just as happily have lived quietly on the beach down south in Cannes or Monaco with the wife and kids. But no, they have to hack his head off to show how heavy they are. The Queen, too, Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake, the Barbara Bush of her day. They'd probably have been thrilled to have cake, but it's bread the French are always jonesing for, just like that Jean Valjean character who steals a loaf to feed his hungry kids, ends up in hard time and hounded by Russell Crowe singing in the streets for the rest of his life. It's a sad story. Everybody loves it. Still haven't seen it. The Alien Acts, that's the Patriot Act of its day. The French or any other scary foreigner can be deported if they're plotting against America, and nobody's going to argue about that one because the French are all nationalistic. Why? Because they can. They're out conquering the Netherlands, Belgium, harassing the Germans, Italy too. Here comes Napoleon. Talk about conquerors you should know. So the Congress, still in Philadelphia in 1798, they want to tighten up. They're all succinct in their lawmaking back then, and the reason is because even though they famously have printing presses, Ben Franklin was a printer, learned to set type from his older brother like 60 years before all this goes down, but in 1798, they write down the laws with goose quills, usually no more than a page long, none of these 1,000-page bills like we have now that nobody can possibly read, and they have to leave room for everybody to sign the thing at the bottom to make it all legal-like. Remember how important freedom of speech is to the founders. That's the First Amendment, not the Second or Fourth, the First. Sedition Act says, sorry, free speech is all well and good in theory, but if you criticize the government, you go straight to jail. Like Benjamin Franklin Bache, for one example, original Franklin's grandson, Benny they call him, a journalist, publisher. He prints snarky stories about Adams, hilarious, calls him blind, bald, crippled, toothless, querulous. Well, he is, right? Accuses him of nepotism. Adams, notoriously thin-skinned, offended. Cops come and haul Benny away, but before they can put him on trial, he gets the yellow fever, swept away in the plague. 4 years later, 1802, Jefferson's president. Happy days are here again. Everybody's calmed down. Napoleon's about to sell Louisiana to Jefferson to raise money for more European conquering, thinks he's going to take Russia. Congress repeals the Sedition Act, and we haven't stopped criticizing the government since. Born this day in 1938, Jerry Rubin, American activist, author, businessman. Jerry Rubin is one of the founders of the Youth International Party, the Yippies, with Abbie Hoffman and Paul Krassner, among others, in New York, December 31, 1967. Rubin and the Yippies follow Marshall McLuhan's teaching about the influence of electronic media and believe if radical events can be made more entertaining, they can feed the media's insatiable hunger for material, reaching a broader audience with an anti-war, anti-corporate message. When Rubin is subpoenaed by the House Un-American Activities Committee to testify about his communist activities, he shows up in a Revolutionary War uniform and declares, nothing is more American than revolution. Next day, he's on the front page of major newspapers throughout the U.S. In 1968, Yippies nominate a pig as candidate for president, Pegasus. Rubin says if the pig is elected, the people will eat him, reversing the process of electing a pig who then eats the people. In the 70s, Rubin retires from politics, becomes an entrepreneur, and by the end of the decade, he's a millionaire, early Apple investor. He dies in 1994 of a heart attack 2 weeks after being hurt while jaywalking across Wilshire Boulevard in front of his penthouse apartment. The father of our country, George Washington, says it best, if the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent, we may be led like sheep to the slaughter. From Rutland, Vermont, this is Richard Alcott speaking.